Hello everybody, Lucas Haneman here. Welcome to this week's episode of Guitar Tone Tuesday, which is all about this vintage guitar and the history of vintage guitars. Now, if you find quirky companies like this interesting, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell because it lets us at Guitar Tone Tuesday let you guys know about lots of videos being released on the Lucas Haneman YouTube channel. And I love talking about companies like this. It really is near and dear to my heart. So, what does vintage come from? The brand Vintage. Well, it's a UK-based company, and I'm going to tell you guys all about it after I just play a little thing clean on this guitar so you guys can hear it. So, the Vintage Company, it all goes back to England in the 1960s. A gentleman by the name of John Hornby Skewes started the JHS Company. Now, when I think of JHS, maybe it's just my age, but I think of the pedals that are being manufactured now and Josh Scott over there on the JHS YouTube channel. I think it's very, very cool what they do over there. Now, JHS, I did not know had been around for much longer than that. So John Hornsby started off this JHS company in the mid-1960s. And what he did was he imported guitars by the likes of Terada and Hondo into the UK. And what they did basically was that they brought very inexpensive but well-made guitars into the British market. Now, those Hondo guitars were so successful that JHS became a global entity in and of itself. By the mid-1970s, the guitar was picking up steam. By the early 80s, it was still very, very strong. And what happened was Hondo was commissioned to make a guitar very much like the Ovation guitar. Now, there was already a guitar being made by a company called Applause, essentially the import version of Ovation, as far as I know. So what John was commissioned to do was to make more guitars that looked like these instruments, with, the fiberglass backs and things like that. So he started a company then called Encore. So he had a good sense of humor. So the Encore brand became very, very successful in and of itself. And by the early 1990s, they made Encore vintage guitars. Now, Encore vintage guitars were solid body electric guitars mainly, with Wilkinson bridges and lay sensor pickups. Very, very good designs. Eventually, by the mid-1990s, these Encore vintage guitars were so successful that they decided to protect their identity and not get lost in the sea of other companies they would start their very own vintage guitars. Now that's where this guitar comes from. This is a vintage VSA555, and it looks a lot like a certain guitar made by Gibson, doesn't it? Yeah, I just said that. It's true. It really, really does. In fact, so much so that, from what I know, because of this model and a couple of others, Vintage got in a lot of trouble with the big G over there at Gibson Guitars. But it's a very cool guitar. Black, 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 beautiful black guitar. 2 Wilkinson PAF style pickups. Really, really nice pickups, as you guys could hear based on that clean playing. We got the stop bar tailpiece. We've got very nice kind of block inlays here on a rosewood fretboard. We have the maple, poplar maple construction for the body, for the sides, and for the back of this guitar. We have the center block going down the center. I think it might be made of mahogany, so I don't know if that's the same as the 335. I think 335s have a maple center block. But other than that, it's pretty darn close. Even these tuners are very Klusen-esque, I must say. So I can see why these guys got in some trouble for making this guitar. This guitar, by the way, belongs to a friend of mine named Guy, who's a great guy, super, super awesome friend, and a really, really just an awesome all-around person. He wanted to lend me this guitar to feature it on the show, and I'm going to feature it in a couple different videos. But before we go any further, I just want to pick up my pick here, and I'm just gonna play it with a little bit of effects here. So here's some overdrive, light overdrive, courtesy of the Kingsley Minstrel overdrive pedal. That's the neck pickup. Here's the bridge pickup. And then both pickups together. Back to a clean sound. Roll back the tone a bit. So yeah, it does all the things that this style of guitar should do. and it certainly looks the part. It's beautiful. It's very much like a B.B. King style guitar, and I like that a lot. It really, really sounds great. These guitars are really, really interesting. As I say, Trev Wilkinson was involved with the early vintage guitars, but he wasn't really involved with the company until apparently a trade show in 2003, where the head of Vintage had a conversation with him, and Trevor basically said, I think you could make your guitars a lot better. And he had some very honest remarks apparently about the quality of the guitars at that time. So the partnership was started then, and they're making really, really great guitars for a very good price. Now, this guitar, as I say, it's not made anymore. Now they're making an offset version of this guitar called the VSA500. And, they're made overseas, but just like a lot of other guitars being made right now, they're being made really, really well. And so the question becomes, do you really think that it's necessary for you to have a guitar with the name on the headstock that we all associate with this style of guitar? Or is the tone and the playability just as important to you, And in my opinion, this guitar is quite good. It's certainly quite good for the price. These guitars, the only issue that I have with this instrument is the neck angle. It's a little shallow. So what I mean by that is that I had to lower this bridge almost all the way to get it flush with the body, especially on the treble side for some reason, to get the action low enough to make it, feel comfortable for most players. So I think that that's maybe a bit of a design flaw in this guitar. The tuning machines are okay. They're not the best. They're not my favorite. But then again, I'm not the biggest fan of these Kluson, deluxe style tuners anyways. I wish the shafts were just a little bit wider on almost every Kluson, deluxe style tuner I play. It's just my personal preference. But I'm a heavy hitter, so I like tuning stability. But, a very, very cool guitar, and certainly, well below $1,000. Pretty astounding for the price, that's for sure. These pickups sound good, I like the contrast between the neck and the bridge pickup. It's nice. I like the fact that the bridge pickup isn't too super bright and pokey, It has a lot of mid-range, though. It kind of has that singing mid-range quality. But it's a really, really nice guitar. So let me know in the comment section below, have you had any experience with vintage guitars? And do you like this brand as much as Guy, my friend Guy, does? He's been, he's had this guitar since 2009, and it's been a long time close friend of his. So I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed, that's for sure. That's about it for this week. We will see everybody again next Tuesday.